What it is, YouTube, it's your boy Ray here, coming back again with another video. So I'm making this video to respond to a subscriber question, and it's related to the box truck scenario. I'm not going to be going full-fledged about the box truck, the whole box truck space, or just box trucking in general in this video, because I'm not in a box truck anymore. So I don't want to give out misinformation or outdated information. I just simply want to respond to this subscriber question. Now, usually with questions, I answer them right down underneath the video, but this particular question was pretty it was like a pretty loaded question, so I wanted to respond to the question and give full transparency to the person that asked this question, and also to fill in the gap from the video I made talking about me being out of the box truck, because I don't know if people still had questions or was left kind of clueless after I made that video. So let's go ahead and get straight to it. The question says, why did you choose to do box truck over getting a tractor before? All right, so first off, I don't own this tractor. I'm a company driver. And second of all, I wasn't thinking about getting a box truck maybe until about 8 months or so before I actually did it. Before I got into box trucking, I was in the military. I joined the military in 2018, and I quickly realized, okay, this ain't what I wanted to do. This ain't for me. Like, it was cool and all, it was a good stepping stone or whatever, but this ain't what I wanted to do. And I've always been like a person trying to figure out different business ideas, what I can do to invest my money, this, that, and the third. So around like early 2019, I must have thought of like 100 different business ideas, trying to figure out what I can do. I wanted to get out of the military and I wanted to start a business, but I was trying to figure out exactly what it is that I wanted to do. I wanted to do restaurants. Actually, I've been wanting to do restaurants for years, because I went to culinary school and stuff, and I wanted to do restaurants for years. I thought about real estate. I thought about doing like ATMs and vending, like ATMs and vending machines. Then I came across hotshot trucking. All of those ventures I thought about before really won't work for me at the time, because for one, things like restaurant, you got to have like a lot of capital to start up, and then the competition is crazy with the restaurant scene. So I was like, I'm not gonna do that. Real estate, I really didn't know truly enough about, and you also got to have a decent amount of change to get started in real estate also. The thing with ATMs and vending machines, you're really not making no real money off that unless you have like a serious amount. So then I thought about hotshot trucking. I was like, oh shit, I'll say, okay, hotshot trucking. I was like, you don't gotta have a CDL, you just need a truck and a trailer. Well, not just a truck and a trailer, but that's the equipment you need. So I was really pressed on hotshot trucking. So I was studying this thing, doing research on it, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do hotshot trucking. Mind you, this is 2019, like early 2019. So at about the end of 2019, I came across box trucks. I was like, oh shit, box trucks. I was like, box trucks would be nice, because then I don't have to get a truck and a trailer. Like, the barrier to entry is a little lower, because with hotshot trucking, you can rent a pickup truck, but that's not like the ideal way. Like, and then even if you did rent a pickup truck, you have to still go buy a trailer. So you have to buy a truck and a trailer, and that's like, you have to spend a lot more money, because now you have to go buy you can't just go buy any pickup truck. You got to go buy like a heavy duty pickup truck that's rated to pull like a lot of weight. So now you got to go spend $40,000-$50,000 on a pickup truck, and then you got to turn around and go spend $10,000-$20,000 on a trailer, and then you got to find somewhere to store this stuff, and a lot of so once I came across box trucking, I was like, hey, that'd be even better for me than hot shots, because what I'm saying, all I gotta do is get a box truck and that's it. Well, not just it, but I got one piece of equipment to worry about. So at that point, I started looking into box trucks, and at that point, it wasn't a lot of people on YouTube like really doing box trucks. And I think it was maybe like, it may have been like 2 people if I'm recalling correctly. I don't even remember who those people are, but it wasn't that many people doing box truck stuff on YouTube. And also, box trucks was like really cheap at that point. Like, you could dang on there buy a brand spanking new box truck for like 30 grand, you know, and you could buy a used box truck for 10, 20 grand, you know, $10,000-$20,000 at that time. So I was like, okay, you know, I can save up 10, 20 grand, you know, 30 grand to go buy a box truck. So that's when my interest shifted to box trucking, was like the end of 2019. Mind you, at this point, I'm still active duty in the military though, so I can't go act on this right away. So I just kept doing my research. I kept saving money. I said, you know what, I'm gonna do box trucks. So I kept saving money. 2020, I went on a deployment. I went on my first deployment in 2020, and then I came back at like the very end of, like the end of 2020. That's when I came back from that deployment. So when I came back from that deployment, man, like box trucking had box trucking had blew up. Like the whole thing around box trucking had blew up. It was like a lot more people on YouTube doing box trucks. The prices of box trucks was like slowly going up. Like a used box truck was like 10, 20 grand. Now a used box truck is like dang on 35, you know what I'm saying, 30, 35,000. Like a used box truck at this point is the price of what a new box truck was just like barely a year prior. So I was like, damn. So I was like, okay, I'm just keep saving my bread. Now, I didn't get out of the military until last year, so 2023. So mind you, from 2020 to 2023, the box truck, you know what I'm saying, like the whole thing about box trucking is steady blowing up. So the prices of box trucks are starting to keep steady going up. So by the end of 2022, that's when I realized, dang, okay, it don't look like I'll be able to like buy a box truck cash like I intended to, right? I was like, you know, I got bread here, but you know, I was on track to buy a used box truck at the price they were 2-3 years ago, not the current price. So I was like, okay, so that's when I started, like, you know, trying to plan and figure out what I was gonna do for them. Let me make sure I'm kind of staying on topic. Okay, so to pretty much answer that question, I got into box trucking to like, because it was like a lower barrier entry. I didn't have to get a CDL pretty much. That was the main reason I was going into it. I didn't have to get a CDL, and the barrier entry, well, was low, you know. And at that time I really wasn't even like looking into semi trucks at all. Like, you know, I hadn't even thought about getting a CDL because I wanted to actually be like I wanted to like have a business. I knew I wouldn't be able to afford to go buy a semi truck cash, if that makes sense. So your next question is, let me pull it up here. It says, also when you were renting the box truck, what's the broker you say you work? Dang man, you gotta learn how to type. It said, what's the broker you said work with New Authority? So, like I said earlier in this video, I'll let you know my experience, but you know, this information could be a little outdated, so I don't want to give you any misinformation, you know. But the broker I was working with primarily at that time was TQL. Now, there were loads that I ran that was non-TQL loads, but it was just a handful, you know. My primary work was coming from TQL. Now, I will say TQL will lowball you because TQL know that we one of the few brokers that's gonna work with new carriers out of the gate, and these new carriers most likely not gonna care. They just gonna run whatever we offer, because like a lot of new carriers don't even know what they should be taking loads for. You know, they just see a load out there and they take it, you know. But TQL will lowball you. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're gonna be, well, I was a lot of the loads I was running with TQL, I made very, very small profits, you know. There was a time or two that I was trying to get back home and I barely broke even just to get back home, you know. So, but that broker was TQL. There was one broker, named CIL Freight, but that was like a local broker. That was a broker that was in my area. And there was like one more person I ran. There was another broker in my area that I ran like a load from a military base in my area from, but TQL was the broker I was working with. The second part of that question says, also, do you feel you would have been more successful just purchasing your own instead of renting? What I said prior kind of led into this. So, like I said, my plan was to buy a box truck, but by the time I got out of the military and was able to actually start my business, the prices of box trucks was like through the roof. And you know, I'm not like a huge like business guru or business guy, but I know that it didn't make sense to go buy a truck that's only worth maybe $20,000 and go buy it, turn around and go buy it from somebody or finance it from somebody for $50,000. And on top of that, I'm not really big into financing stuff anyway. You know, I don't like to really finance stuff. You know, if I can't buy it cash, I just hold off until I can afford to go buy it cash. You know, that's just my personal pet peeve. That little financing thing I really don't like to do. And on top of that, I didn't really want to be that vested into something that I didn't know the outcome of. You know, knowing that most new businesses fail, I knew it didn't make sense for me to go finance a $50,000 box truck, and the odds are already stacked against me. You know, and then I'll be left. There's not no probably in it. I still be left right now paying back however much money I didn't pay back when I was running my box truck, which would be probably closer to $40,000-$50,000 by the time you tack in interest with it. That's why I ended up not buying a box truck. My sole intention was to begin with, but the prices had skyrocketed so bad. The money I had saved up, it didn't make sense to go put. Well, it didn't make sense to me to go put $20,000 down, or $10,000 down, $15,000 down on a $50,000 truck, and then you still left with $40,000 to pay back on it. You know, $30,000 to pay back after they tack in interest. You know, that didn't make sense to me. So that's why I ended up going the rental route, because that's what was available for me at the time. Little did I know that rental prices had even skyrocketed by the time I got in too. So I think the biggest thing for me was timing. You know, if I was able to come in with the money that I had, you know, a year earlier, a year and a half earlier, 2 years earlier, you know, I think we'd be telling a different story right now. You know, because equipment cost was a lot cheaper, and there was more people willing to work with new carriers. He says also, do you feel like you'd have been more successful? So the more successful thing, I really don't know. You know, that's all kind of speculative at this point. There's a chance I could have been, chance I couldn't have been, you know. But what I would say is it's a strong possibility. But do I think it was a guarantee? No. The reason I say that is it just all depends on how much you were paying monthly for the truck that you were financing, you know, because in an ideal situation, yeah, you should be paying less per month, you know, for a truck that you're financing than you are renting. But there are guys out there, and there are stories of guys that were paying a lot more money monthly for a truck they were financing than I was just renting a truck, you know. So there's that. You know, it just all depends on how much you were paying for the truck, and you know what I'm saying, the freight or whatever. But the thing is, though, I don't think renting was the sole reason that I wasn't successful in the box truck space. It played a major role, you know, because of the costs associated with it. But there were other things, you know, that I did incorrectly that caused me to fail too. The first thing is how I came into it. Like when I first got set up, I got my truck too early. Like my authority, you know, I applied for my authority or whatever, and my authority went active on May 21st of 2023. That's the date my authority went active, May 21st, 2023. Now, what I did, I rented that truck before. Yeah, I think I rented that truck either before it got active or right as it went active. Let me look back at this date so I know I'm not telling any misinformation. So let's see, April, May 20. Wait, was it May 21st? It might have been May 20, because May 21st is a Sunday. So it might have been May 23rd. It might have been May 23rd my authority went active. And let's see here. Yeah, so May 23rd, I think it was like May 23rd my authority went active. And I can't remember. You gotta realize it's been about 8 months since I ran that truck, and it's been almost a year since my authority went active almost. So basically what I'm trying to say is I got my truck too early, right? My authority went active. Whenever I got the truck, I can't remember if it was before, right? I can't remember whether it was right before my authority went active or right when just after my authority went active. I think it was, if I'm not mistaken though, I think it was just before my authority went active, I rented the truck, right? And long story short, the truck sat for about 2 weeks before I even ran my first load. You know, the truck sat for about 2 weeks before I even ran my first load, you know. So that alone was enough to, like, you know, that's already starting off on the wrong foot, if that makes sense, because you're renting a truck, you're paying a weekly rental fee already. I hadn't even ran my first load yet, right? So by the time I ran my first load, it might have been a little longer than 2 weeks. I'm trying to, you know, I wish I could pull up the paperwork from when I ran my first load, but it was just like a lot of digging through old emails, and you know, I just really didn't have time for that tonight. But my truck sat for at least about 2 weeks before I even ran my first load. And then when I ran my first load, it was a load that I shouldn't have even ran anyway. The load I ran, that was my first load, and that was not a TQL load. That was from a local broker. I guess they couldn't find, you know, somebody to run it. And it was literally, this is about to sound dumb as hell. It was literally one pallet. It was one pallet of equipment. I picked it up on the military base I was serving at, and it was coming from a warehouse from that base in Virginia, and it was going down to like Columbia or Charleston. I can't remember, it was either Columbia or Charleston, South Carolina. One pallet, and it was paying like a couple $100s. And I'm not talking about on the high end of a couple hundred. I'm talking about like the low end, like under $500. Like, man, I was probably getting, I didn't even get over, from where I live in Virginia to Charleston, South Carolina, that had to be maybe $1 a mile. It was probably less than $1 a mile, somewhere around there. It was probably like $1 a mile or something like that. Now, I knew for a fact I shouldn't have been running that load, but the reason I ran that load is because I had been sitting in my area for over a week just looking for freight, and I could not find anything. Everybody I was calling was saying, no, we don't work with New Authority, no, we don't work with New Authority, no, we don't work with New Authority. And this was before I had even ran a load with TQL, so I didn't even know they even work with New Authorities. It was just like in my area, things wasn't just popping like that, you know. So I was like, you know, if I get out of here, you know, hopefully I'm able to find something, you know. And before I went there, I had got on the load board, and I was looking at freight in that area I was going to, and I was like, okay, you know what I'm saying, it looked like there's a lot more freight over down in Columbia or Charleston every day than it is in this area that I'm in. So I was like, maybe if I get down there, deliver that load, then, you know, I can find me something. And ultimately that did happen. Like, you know, I ran that load, and once I got down there, I was able to find, that's when I got a TQL load, I think. Yeah, I left there, then I deadheaded maybe about 50 miles or so. I had to be in Columbia, South Carolina. It was either Columbia or North Charleston, but I deadheaded maybe like an hour or so over to Charlotte, and then I picked up some, he said it was furniture. I think it was like some kind of furniture. I don't know exactly what it was, but the BOL said it was like furniture, some type of furniture. It was like a truckload of furniture. And then I took that back out to like the northern or western side of Virginia. And from there I was rolling. But I shouldn't have took that load. So on top of me, so you looking at it, my truck sat for 2 weeks. Then I ran that little cheap load. So you looking at I'm already almost a month into this truck. And then, I hadn't been generating that much revenue. So that first month with that truck was just all like deep in the negatives. I remember when I first got that first invoice from Enterprise for like that first month of me having that truck, man, it was terrible. And I'm glad I said that. Another thing that was my mistake, which ultimately caused me to fail down the road, is well, that was part of it. The main thing was getting that truck too early. The next thing is, when I first got my truck, I didn't have. So Enterprise have two things. They have a commercial account and they have just a regular rental account. So let's say if you just like a regular Joe and you saying, okay, I need to go rent a box truck because I'm trying to move a freaking 4-bedroom house and you need like a 26-foot box truck, you can just go there and rent that truck. But it's gonna be at a higher rate than somebody that's coming in and renting it for like on a commercial account. So when I first got my truck, my insurance, they hadn't added that truck to my policy yet. So I wasn't able to rent that truck underneath the commercial account or whatever they call it. I wasn't renting that truck under the commercial account. So like for the first about 3 to 4 weeks, I was renting that truck under just like a regular household account. So I was paying more than it was for renting commercially. So that first invoice from that truck, man, that shit, hey, listen. When I first saw that invoice that first month, I was like, wow. But that's what messed me up. Well, that's part of the reason. Like outside of like the cost of renting a box truck, the high cost of renting a box truck, those are the mistakes that I made that also caused me to fail. I'm not just blaming it on Enterprise or blaming it on a high rental truck. Those are the mistakes that I made also that kind of came back in the end and bit me in the butt. But yeah, just if you do go rent a truck, I'm not the person to tell you to rent a truck or not rent the truck. But those are some of the mistakes that I made. I'm trying to figure something else out here. See if there's any. I'm sure some other mistakes that I made, but that's really what I can think of off top right now. Those are a few of the biggest things that kind of came back and bit me in the butt. But that's pretty much it. I hope I answered your question thoroughly. Let me make sure I'm not leaving anything out before I get up off here. Yeah, man. I don't know if you're thinking about getting into the box truck space or not. And I'm not the person to tell you to do it or to not do it. What I will tell you though is just to do your homework, do it thoroughly. I don't regret starting a box truck business because I did what I said I was gonna do. I didn't sell myself short. However, I wish I had gone about it in a different fashion. Maybe came out here and got a CDL first and got into trucking first and then later invested into trucking. I kind of did things out of order, and it is what it is, but you can't really cry over spilled milk. So like I'm saying, don't know if you plan on getting into box trucking or not. No, I'm not the person to tell you to do it or to not to do it. Do your homework. I will say though, if you're thinking about it, I would probably highly recommend, especially if you're going OTR with it. If you're going OTR in the box truck, I probably would highly recommend, man, just go ahead and get your CDL, big dog, and just go truck over the road with a company, because at the end of the day, you're gonna make more money if you get with the right company. At the end of the day, you're gonna be bringing home more money weekly as a company driver, as a CDL company driver, than you will in that box truck, big dog. Because a lot of people gonna tell you that, yeah, you're gonna clear crazy amounts of money a week in a box truck. Yeah, you could, but at the end of the day, You still got a lot of costs that's going out. So at the end of the day, you might be bringing home, let's say you made, I'm going to keep it all the way tall with you. You're not going to be making those $5,000-$6,000 a week every week in a box truck. You know what I'm saying? You probably be getting somewhere into like the threes, the mid threes. On a good week, you might get in the high threes, maybe $4,000. But you're not going to be grossing no $5,000-$6,000 in a box truck every week. So let's be realistic with it and say you gross somewhere around $3,200, $3,500 a week. By the time all your fuel costs and stuff calculated, by the time you set aside for maintenance, if you financing a truck, you know, you got your own truck, or let's say, you know, you paying a rental fee every week, and you put money aside for the business, you probably take home $600-$700, you know what I'm saying, if that much, you know. So I just really don't see it. And you're dealing with a lot more headache. So is it really worth dealing with all that headache for, you know, that you bring home $600-$700 a week when you can go over here and build a company and bring home more than that and don't have no headaches, don't have to worry about anything. Just get that load from A to B, and once you cut that truck off for the day, once you get home for the weekend or week or whenever you come home, you ain't worried about nothing else related to trucking. You can enjoy your time at home. So yeah, but at the end of the day, you can go do whatever you want to do. You know, that's just my advice. It's just my 2 cents. You know, just and this time I probably would just recommend going to get a CDL and company drive, because I haven't been looking into box trucking, but you know, the few people I talk to and the few people I hear about it, is not all that great nowadays. You know, it just seems to still be on a downward spiral. You know, it's not going up. Things aren't changing, but it's all up to you. You know, it's not a bad thing to do, but you getting into it solely for the money, I would probably seek other endeavors. But that's all I gotta say, though. You know, who am I? I'm just a small content creator. You know, I'm just a company driver. You know, but you know, hopefully I answered your question. Appreciate everybody for watching this video. Please like, comment, subscribe, leave your boy a thumbs up to support the channel. Till next time, I'm out.